embrace the oscillation, right? Because it's calibration, right? You're sort of, it's like a child wobbly on their feet when they're learning to walk. You're learning this again. And so that wobbliness is, it's their internalized voice and your individuated self kind of having a little bit of an argument, and sort of view that part of you that's trying to individuate, like say, you got this, and that's an old voice, and we can just sort of say, you're actually not welcome here anymore. Like, you could just step out, thank you. And it's the individuated voice and the narcissistic internalized, or the gaslighted and internalized voice, and they're still fighting it out. And we feel as though, aren't I? Just like today, anyone watching that call, would have said this was not okay, and the person was almost like the emperor's not wearing any clothes, right? That this person was saying, this emperor is naked, go away, Ramani, go away. And so I think that initially we need those voices a lot more. And there'll still be times when we will, because I think there's certain trigger situations that kind of remain pretty consistent for survivors for a long, long time. We do hold it internally. And we were told too, Jay, many survivors are told they're uppity if they want to achieve a goal. Do you really think you're going to pull that off? Like, I think you're reaching a little too high. So they were minimized and trivialized for wanting to do something that they still hear that inner voice of, don't be ridiculous. You're never going to be able to do that. And they make that voice their own instead of trying to learn like that was an unwanted visitor. So let's see if you can sort of treat it that way. And we can even think about, if you look at trauma theory, we talk about the protector persecutor kind of a model, that the persecuting voice in a strange way is doing this really messed up way of keeping you safe, because it's telling you, like, in essence, that persecuting voice is telling you you're going to fail, so you don't try. And when you were in the narcissistic relationship and you failed, they would humiliate and shame you, right? Or tell you it was going to happen. But if you can say that, okay, I see what you're trying to do, persecuting voice. I'll be fine if this doesn't go well, because it'll be on my terms. And if you really have done radical acceptance, even when the narcissistic person rolls their eyes and says, oh, big surprise, you have to keep coming back to, this is a them thing. This is not a me thing. I'm not saying it doesn't hurt. This is a carousel that really takes a toll on people, but it can be done. But that oscillation starts to become a little less oscillatey. The more people have these validating voices, people build up what we call efficacy, the idea that they're able to do something, right? So the first time we're able to do something successfully, from make up a cake or change the oil in our car, use a drill and put something in the wall, what it does to the psyche is remarkable. So I tell survivors, keep trying new things, because the more efficacy you build, that also helps foster individuation. So I'm like, grab the drill. If you put a few holes in the wall, but the picture goes up, you're going to feel really good about the picture going up. Try to make the difficult souffle. You may burn a few, but when it's made, great. And other people do all kinds of interesting things. I see, like, some folks I've worked with learned languages, and they learned how to play a musical instrument, and they'll say, this feels so good, because back in the day I would have been made fun of for this. Those who are able to get out will say, it's so interesting to do this. And that confidence starts jumping into other areas of their life.